Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Destruction Babies, a dark Japanese drama from 2016. And after leaving his brother to scour the streets, an angry, disgruntled young man picks fights with complete strangers and tries to beat them to a pulp. This includes the resident yakuza henchmen who do not take kindly to getting punched in the face. Eventually, our protagonist earns the respect of another young man by the name of Kitahara, who is obsessed with capturing violent scuffles on film and posting the videos on the internet. These two degenerates team up and go on a rampage, but cross paths with a beautiful kleptomaniac. This is one of the most critically acclaimed Japanese films from 2016. Every single critical review that I've read has been positive. Just listen to these quotes. Quote, extended theatrical runs in Japan allowed the themes of apathy, inaccessible social mobility, and familial divide to permeate the collective consciousness of Japanese adolescents, unquote. Quote, Destruction Babies is a brutal, exhausting, and challenging piece of work with fantastic performances, some sharp comments about Japanese society, and some moments that are guaranteed to shock, unquote. Quote, accordingly, Taira's wayward wildness gives expression to the destructive aspect of the Japanese psyche that is deeply ingrained in the nation's history, culture, and ritual. A savage, senseless belligerence which can be held down only momentarily before getting back up, and irrepressibly as Taira himself for the next punch, unquote. Well, to be honest, I found this film to be very disappointing. I basically watched a movie about dudes getting punched in the face. That's basically it. After watching Destruction Babies twice, I think this is a pretty shallow affair. Not a whole lot going on in this one. I actually find it quite odd that most of these critics are claiming that this film has a lot to say about Japanese society, because you could have set this film in almost any other country, and it would have been an accurate reflection of the disgruntled youths anywhere. I think people are reading some content into this film that doesn't actually exist. So, for example, if this was set in America, it would have been, it would have allowed the themes of apathy, inaccessible social mobility, and familial divide to permeate the collective consciousness of American adolescents. That generic applicability to every country is to be expected from this, because punching people in the face is a universal concept, especially when there's zero character development behind it. Now, think about this for a second. If you've ever seen this movie, this is something I thought about after watching it. What was the protagonist in this film so angry about? I have no idea. Right from the opening scene, he's scowling and punching people in the face. And that's literally the only thing he does for the rest of the film. That aforementioned critic who mentions inaccessible social mobility, well, I have a question. Actually, it's a statement. It can only be deemed inaccessible if you actually try first, right? Now, the deep frustrations of our protagonist are never established at any point in this film. And without properly establishing his motivations, personally, I can only come to the conclusion that this guy was just a lazy crybaby who never bothered to put any effort into life at all. That's my interpretation of this film. Because he never actually met a legitimate obstacle or dilemma that set him on this violent path. Now, with that said, Destruction Babies could have used this poorly developed main character to make an interesting film. If you've been following my YouTube channel for a while now, you know that I have a pretty wide taste in the kinds of movies that I enjoy. Essentially, all I need is to be engaged and interested. I don't care how you do it. No character development, that's fine with me. But you need to make up for it in other aspects. And I don't think there's enough of anything else in this movie, which results in a very monotonous viewing experience. There are a few scenes that have potential, though, near the middle section when the kleptomaniac girl is kidnapped. Filmmakers also introduce a social media aspect to this as well, but that potential is mostly squandered by a paper-thin script. The movie barely explores anything, visually or otherwise. To be fair, there are some things that I liked about Destruction Babies. The direction and the camera work are solid. I liked the the framing of shots, because a number of them are from wide angles, from a distance, right? You could clearly see things. Fist fights are realistic in how they're portrayed. Very realistic fights. There's no like choreography or anything. You know what I mean? Performances in general are good. One exception to this might actually be the lead actor, but it's difficult to assess his performance because he was given literally nothing to do acting-wise. It's hard to evaluate something that's practically non-existent. You can barely call it a performance at all. Another thing that kind of annoys me about this movie, after I was done watching it, actually I think I saw this before I watched it, is the marketing campaign behind some of the DVD releases. There's one distributor called Third Window Films that I actually like quite a bit. I have some of their releases in my collection. But their tagline for Destruction Babies that reads, "The most extreme 108 minutes in Japanese cinema history," is just a bunch of sensationalistic nonsense, But it nevertheless adds another overrated aspect to the film. So, Destruction Babies is not only shallow, it's also a paper tiger in terms of extreme cinema. Now, I know a number of people who do enjoy this film quite a bit, but while watching it for a second time, it felt like the intrinsic anger of it all was entirely unjustified, if only for the complete lack of specification regarding the protagonist's source of frustration. You know what I mean? This movie really did not connect. Well, if this movie really did connect with youths who live in Japan and watched it, my response to them would be, stop whining and suck it up. Or give me a reason why you're frustrated, right? But regardless, Destruction Babies does have a DVD and Blu-ray release in the UK with English subtitles. My suggestion would be to read some of the critical reviews out there for another point of reference. And if it seems like it's up your alley, give it a shot. But for the purpose of contrast, I will be reviewing another Japanese film on Wednesday that also involves people getting repeatedly punched in the face. But that film is far more interesting than Destruction Babies, in my opinion. And I don't think it's even close. It's also more violent. So look out for that. And be sure to check out part 5 of my Takashi Miike filmography review this Friday, because I'm going to be throwing some punches of my own in that video, both at Miike's critics and Miike himself. So it's going to be a volatile week for the Asian movie enthusiasts, so get ready. And as always, I will see you next time.